Tell us what you know.
Well, first of all, Ben and Jen, it's a very active scene here. We are on Main Street in Willimantic, and the entire investigation is surrounding this building behind me. It's a very large apartment building, 560 Main Street. And here's what we know so far. I just spoke to a police lieutenant on scene who told me that around noon they responded to a fire here at this building, but it's now turned into a deeper investigation. They are calling it a suspicious incident. And while they couldn't give me too many details about what exactly happened, police did say that a suspect has been identified in this incident, and they did say that there are several agencies now taking part in this investigation, including the Drug Enforcement Agency. Now, a lot of people have been asked to leave this building as well, evacuated from this building. I did speak to a neighbor who said that the incident happened on the 6th floor, just 2 doors down from where he lived, and he said that he heard what sounded like a pipe burst, a big, large sound, and then he saw smoke filling the building. He said that there is some damage to the inside of the building as well. I did ask how many people are displaced at this point, and police couldn't give me an exact number, but they said that especially the floors surrounding that area where this incident happened, those people are not able to return at this point. And he did say that this road is blocked off at this point. It's going to be blocked off for the next several hours, maybe into the overnight hours, and police said that they even expect this to impact tomorrow's morning commute. So it's a very large scene here, a large investigation. They also have an environmental services company here that's taking part in the cleanup for whatever this incident was. Again, police not able to give too many details, but it is still a very active scene here. Of course, you can't see any more smoke or anything like that. The fire is under control at this point, but the investigation into what happened is ongoing. That's the latest here in Willimantic. Gabby Molina, Fox 61 News.
A lot going on there.